So I think it started in third grade. That's when I consider myself to be a no child behind and race to the top baby, because my entire schooling has been under that entire regime of education. So it started in third grade. I think it was called the Terra Nova exams in New York, and these are the worst exams ever. I mean, for a third grader, the years prior, I was doing science experiments, I was going on field trips, I was really loving going to school. Third grade came along. The Terra Nova exams, months and months and months of test preparation. And then you had weeks of these horrible tests that measure nothing, essentially. So it was demoralizing for me because I didn't know what was going on. I mean, every kid was going through it, so you didn't hear about opt-out then. It wasn't around. So it just came to a point where I didn't do well on these tests, and it made no sense to me because I was a really good reader. I read a lot of books, but on the English comprehension exam, where they boiled down a beautiful language into multiple choice bubbles, it didn't make much sense to me. So I became really disenfranchised and disillusioned with the entire school system from that point onward. So I think what we have to realize for a number of things, we have to go back to the effects of what schooling has done in society and where the public school systems of today have come from. And that's what most people in society have largely forgotten. Our public school system, the American institution of schooling, comes back all the way to Prussia. Horace Mann, the father of public schools, went to Prussia, incidentally on his honeymoon. I don't think his wife was very happy. But he went to this country, and he realized these people are creating obedient, submissive, compliant people, and America during that time was going through the Industrial Revolution. So we wanted to create a lot of people in factories. We wanted people to work in industrialized kinds of jobs. So he said, gee, let's take these kinds of practices and let's bring them here to the United States. So he did that. He courted the business community, he courted major presidents from major universities, and he got a huge coalition of people across the board to adopt these principles. And it worked. I mean, America raced ahead of all these countries because they had this kind of industrial school system. Pump out a lot of people, and I heard this quote one time, basically, it was along the lines of, park your brains at the door, work your 9 hours at this factory, go to the bar after, get food, and do it all over day in, day in, day out. And that's how it was. But we're moving from an industrial economy to one that Seth Godin calls a connection economy, based on relationships and values and informal accreditation. It's so much more valuable today, yet education, what I call, remains in the snow globe kind of state, kind of affected by all the events in the outside world. Almost every other institution has been transformed, yet education remains in this isolated, stagnant state, and that's something we need to break. I think we need to bring in all these different players. Some of the most enriching conversations I've had are the people who are working on the peripheries of education, people who are trying to transform it from the outside. And if we bring those players together, if we bring the educators and the students and the administrators, as well as the people in business, as well as the people in media, then we can create that kind of change, because they know it. They're seeing business is transforming. It's moving from a vertical kind of structure, where this top-down management, to one that's horizontal, where people on the same playing field to connect and collaborate. So education, the effects of what the Prussian model has done, is institute compulsory schooling. And in my opinion, that's something that's been one of the most detrimental effects on society today, what compulsory schooling has done. And John Gatto really talks a lot about this in detail. And so what he talked about, and he gave a really vivid history of public schools, what he said was that when they first instituted compulsory schooling, there was a huge protest outside this major schoolhouse, and they tried to turn it over in Massachusetts. They failed. People just didn't want to mandate school for every single person. And what they've done, the studies, they've shown the literacy rates in Massachusetts today are less than it was in 1798, before compulsory schooling was instituted. So what does that say? What does that say about what is done to our society?